Now, welcome back to Full Circle with Mikali. We are talking about family dynamics and how the relationship that you have with your family has impacted or can be impactful in your life. The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it wrapped in one. It's time for Family Circle. And to have this conversation with us this morning is a lady I met 4 years ago. I'm so happy for this reunion. She's a transformational coach. She's called Karo Gaiduma. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Good to see you.
4 years later,
Yeah.
na mimi ninazeeka, you still look the same or even younger, Karo.
No, you look the same.
No way.
Hakuna kuzeeka, you're just the same. It's like we've hit pause.
Oh yeah?
Let's keep it like
I'm
that.
happy. I'm happy, and I'm happy that we're having this conversation.
Yeah, me too.
Because most of the time, family inakwanga ile place yenye we do not touch.
Yeah.
Whatever happens in the family, we keep it in the family.
Yes.
We don't talk about it. We
Yes.
tolerate it.
Yeah.
And the only way to handle it is probably just keep quiet.
Yeah.
So there's so many dynamics to this.
Yes.
And please, maybe you can just get us into the different dynamics
Yeah.
and, you know, how it can be impactful in our lives.
So family dynamics is normally a scheme of interactions and interrelations between family members. And some of the elements of this scheme are the, you know, like the rules in the family, the hierarchies in the family arrangement, you know, like do the parents live together, do cousins there, is extended family there, those things, you know, the arrangements, the hierarchies, the rules, and the interpersonal relations among the family members. That's the scheme that we call the dynamic. So the dynamic can be as many as the families in the world, because every family has a little bit of differences in those elements. But now, how we categorize families is whether the dynamic is functional or not functional.
Okay.
Now, I want to say that there's no perfection. There's no family that is perfect. But what distinguishes between a dysfunctional family and a functional one is how long the dysfunction lasts.
Oh.
And dysfunction can be brought about by could be a member cannot self-regulate. They can't regulate their emotions, anger, guilt, shame. They can't. It could be because there is an illness in the family. So any form of crisis throws the family into a dysfunction. Now, how long they stay in that dysfunction is what determines whether they're now a dysfunctional dynamic or a functional one.
Okay.
And sometimes you find that the dysfunction is mostly among the two people who start the family. The relationship between the man and the woman is what we are talking about. So when you talk about your family dynamic, you're really talking about the dynamic of your parents' relationship.
Oh my goodness. And that is why it's, like you said, it's totally different for different families.
Yeah.
There are families where every Sunday we meet.
Yeah.
There are families where I will choose a wife for you.
Yes.
Because we know best.
Yeah.
And it has to be this kind, this type.
Yeah.
There's a family, other family, every Sunday we go to church together.
Yeah.
So even when I start my own family,
Yeah.
it will be dad and mom instilled this, and that is what I
Exactly.
translate
Yeah.
into my life.
And that is what is expected of me. Because remember, family is very, very important because it's the first place the child finds themselves in.
Yes.
And how they relate with themselves, the world, and others is formatted there. So it's like you came in as an empty flash disk and you're
Yes.
getting all the files from that dynamic that you found. So the first thing is you determine, are these people connected?
Okay.
Are these people, you know, and one of the things that affects intimate relationships is there are two things, either abuse or neglect. Those two things will determine whether there's a dysfunction or not. And we are talking about abuse in terms of physical, emotional, or mental. Neglect, physical, emotional, mental, financial. So if you were to go back and look at your family's dynamic, your parents' relationship, children are very perceptive. So they can tell there's something off. But as adults, we want to pretend as if something is working. And that's why you hear people saying, I'm staying for the kids. The kids already knew this thing was broken a long time ago. But what you're doing is that you're teaching them that that is normal. And the subconscious mind records all of this. And that is what it goes to duplicate. Because your subconscious mind cannot replicate what it has not seen. So if you continue to expose your children to these things, fear, neglect, abuse, guilt tripping, rejection, abandonment, that is the file that they'll hold and go and duplicate.
So the whole thing about I am staying for children,
Yeah.
that I'm keeping my family together, you're causing more damage
Yes.
than good.
Than good, because if you look at what this dynamic is,
Yes.
you know, most people think that a working relationship is where we are under the same roof for as many years as we can. That is not a determination of whether it's working or not.
No, it's not.
It's not working, because what does it mean to work? When we're talking about a functional dynamic, what is that? It's a space where people feel safe to be themselves. People are not afraid to make mistakes. People are expressive of their emotion. They feel free to speak their opinion and to express their emotion. People feel free to have a different way of living life, to make different decisions from the rest of the family.
Yes.
People are given responsibilities age appropriately. So I'm not taking care of my parent and I'm 13, they're taking care of me. You see, that's a functional way of doing family. You know, there's no abuse. There's no fear that is consistent. There is no covering up or secrecy. You know, that is what is functional. Now, if you are in a dynamic where a child cannot speak and they feel the need to hold a secret, let's say dad came drunk yesterday and he peed on himself.
Yes.
And there's a lot of shame and embarrassment, and your mom tells you don't tell that to anybody, that already affects the child, because they have shame. They are beginning to see their father as not as ideal as they thought he was, and yet they can't say anything about that. And then how then can we create functional families from such dynamics?
How does that translate into my life as an adult? So I'm seeing these things as a child,
Yeah.
and probably I've locked them in a little box somewhere. I found a space to love my dad again and respect him again.
Yeah.
But does it ever leave me? That
No, it
little
doesn't.
bit.
It doesn't, because again, within the family is where personalities are formed. A child comes into the world, find themselves into a certain dynamic, and they begin to learn how to treat themselves, how to treat others, what the world means, what this means and what that means.
Yeah.
That is created within that cocoon of the family system. Now, when that child leaves, remember again, aside from these thoughts and beliefs, there are emotions. So as a child between 0 and 7 years, what is the dominant emotions of that child? What do they feel often? If it's fear, it's, you know, it's like going to the gym. The more you practice, the better you get at it. So the more you practice feeling fear, shame, guilt, the better you get at it. And what happens is you begin in your adulthood creating relationship dynamics that give you more fear, more guilt. So it could be at work. You feel guilty, you're late. You feel guilty, you didn't submit on time. You are like, it's like you're setting yourself up to feel more of these emotions. And so you set yourself up to be abandoned. You set yourself up to be rejected. You set yourself up to be, you know, to be played. You set yourself up because subconsciously that's what you're replicating. And I tell people the evidence that you are healed is in the dynamics you find yourself. So don't tell yourself I overcame that. And yet in front of you is a dysfunctional marriage, for example. That is the evidence that you have something to work on.
Yes.
So don't blame the other person.
Yeah.
It's, the first thing is take responsibility. If this is happening in my life, then I have something to do with it. And I need to investigate what are the thought patterns and emotional patterns that have helped me to create this, so that I can uncreate it. And that's power, that's personal power. But when you say, because a lot of the times we idealize our parents cannot do any wrong in our eyes. And so, and that's the nature of a child, because if a child thinks that their parent is not ideal, they can't survive, it's too much fear and uncertainty. So they have to idealize their parent for survival. But when you grow up, you realize your mom was just like you.
Yeah.
A human being with emotions, with traumas, like you, even sometimes worse than you, because sometimes they have poverty trauma and abuse from their own parents. So you realize they were not perfect. Now you separate. My mom is a good person trying to do her best, but she had wounds of her own. and she did this to me, told me this, and that hurt me. But that doesn't make her a bad person.
No.
You separate. You're like, okay, I will not invalidate my experience, and I will also not make her wrong. And that's how you begin to heal.
So
Yeah.
it is not a sentence that if you came from a dysfunctional family that you will end up having one yourself, or probably never having one, because there's also the part of, if that is what it looks like, then I'd rather never get into it.
Yeah, that's a statement from a very powerless person. It's you need to realize that more than 98% of all families are dysfunctional. Why? Because of the society we find ourselves in.
Okay.
Way back before, it was poverty that was traumatizing us. Then came colonialists. Then came, economic struggle. Then now came COVID. There's always going to be something to traumatize society, therefore creating dysfunctional families. So we are not saying that that is an excuse for you not to have a functional, or to even aspire to have one. And the thing is not to have a family that doesn't go through dysfunction. No. It's to have a family that says whatever dysfunction shows up, our goal is going to be to harmonize ourselves, to find our balance. The other thing I forgot to mention about dysfunctional families is that at the core of the dysfunctional family is the avoidance of the real issue. So dad is alcoholic. Let's avoid that.
So we'll not talk about it.
We'll not talk about that. You have a brother who will just be cracking jokes. Let's crack jokes. We'll be fine. You'll have a mother who's gonna die caretaking. Because everybody takes up certain roles. There are certain roles that people take up to try and bring the family back to balance.
So you grew up knowing that kazi ya mama ni ile.
And you're like, yeah, you die. You self-sacrifice, and that's something to aspire to. So there are roles that families members step into to bring balance to the family. Now, in a functional family, these roles will be fluid. So today Mwikali will be the joker, tomorrow she'll be the hero of the family, the next day she'll be the scapegoat. That's the functional family, because you step into the role based on your own unique expression. But in a dysfunctional family, when you step into these roles, you are stuck there, and you're stuck there for life. So there are some roles. There's a hero who rescues everybody. There is a scapegoat, or who they call the black sheep of the family. The scapegoat, is not the the scapegoat is the one who's the problem. People are like, shida ni huyu. Then there's a rebel, the black sheep of the family. Then there's the martyr, the one who's gonna die and caretake for everyone. There's the identified patient. Most of the time it's somebody who has an addiction, or who has a chronic illness. So those are some of the roles that people take up within the family to try and diffuse the tension created by a problem as the family deals with the problem. But now in a dysfunctional family, we are avoiding the problem, which means if we have identified Mwikali as the rebel, as the black sheep, you stay the black sheep. So you again take on that role, create an identity out of it. You've had people saying, I'm the black sheep of my family, and you act like it. It carries emotions. What does the black sheep of the family feel? Rejection, abandonment,
unwanted.
All of exactly. So imagine you become that in your life now. What relationships does the black sheep create? Relationships that cause them to be abandoned. So you see, what role you're playing in your family is playing a big role in your life. If you're the hero, for example, you're the kind of person who leaves the office to run to work, to home, to go solve somebody's problem. Heroes are the super achievers in family, because families can say, our family is functional because so and so is so rich. Ameomoka. Poster child. The one that the parents are so proud of. So what do? You create a relationship where you also go to be starring.
And
when you're stereo in that family, in your own family, you've created a dynamic where you have to be the hero. So you look for someone who is emotionally unavailable so that you can go try and
save them, bring them back.
Exactly.
So you keep giving and giving. In the process, you lose you.
You lose you because this is not your identity. It was just some role you are supposed to play temporarily.
So is it possible to step out of it?
Yes, it is possible to step out of it, and it takes professional support and it takes a lot of awareness. And I was talking to a client this morning, and I told them, it's not about trying to apportion blame to anybody.
No.
Or trying to make reason. You know, we are so reason oriented, like, why did this happen? Give me a reason. No.
Yes.
Can you step back out of your life for a minute and observe the patterns? What are the patterns? Like, without lying to yourself, what kind of people do you date? What kind of jobs do you get? What kind of bosses do you attract? Just look at it without the pressure to do anything about it. Just observe and tell yourself the truth. That awareness alone is like 80% of healing.
This is such an important conversation conversation for families.
Yeah.
Because we get lost in them.
Yeah.
And like I said at the beginning, families are the places we do not touch.
Yeah.
It's like, I will protect my family with everything I have.
Yeah.
So whatever happens in there, however much
Yeah.
we're dying or dysfunctional as we are,
Yeah.
in it, we will not handle it.
We won't talk.
People will go on forever without handling something that happened to them as a child.
Exactly.
Because we just don't talk
Yeah.
about it.
Or we have this thing of, it happened a long time ago, I'm over
Yeah.
it. Are
Yeah.
you really?
No.
You know, and how to know is, because again, the one thing that we've done, because it's very wounding for a child, some of these things that happen to us. And it doesn't have to be even something big like sexual abuse or whatever. It just has to be, your mom tells you, look at your body. Just one sentence.
Yeah.
And it just crushes you completely. We have learned to numb our emotions because we needed to survive. With these heavy emotions, we couldn't survive unless we numb them down, because they are very painful. So what happens is, you're so numb, even your own life, you're so numb to the experiences that, you've been having.
Oh my God. Carol, such powerful conversation.
Yeah.
Such a powerful conversation. And our time is up.
Oh my gosh, that was fast.
Very fast, extremely fast.
Yeah.
Social media handles, people, how can they get these services from you?
So on Facebook, my name is Caroline Gaiduma. On Instagram, Twitter, it's @cgaiduma. Drop me a DM. I'll direct you either to a good therapist, or we can do a clarity session.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this.
You're welcome.
We are taking a very short commercial break. I hope you learned from that. And everyone at this point is just looking at their families. That was happening to me a lot. And then it went back to my parents' family and just, all the way back to powerful. We will be right back after this break, but if you have any questions whatsoever, 111 444 111, be part of the conversation. Switch TV Kenya on Instagram, Switch TV Kenya on Facebook. We will be right back. Thank you.